Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a special online event today called Living the Queen's Code: How to Honor Yourself and Transform Your Relationships with Men. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm thrilled to be with you here today with one of the most fun, illuminating, and powerful speakers I know. Her name is Alison Armstrong, and she's really been evolving a whole way of understanding the dynamics between men and women that can illuminate all kinds of dysfunctional patterns and really open up to a really amazing possibility, which is what the Queen's Code is all about. She's a best-selling author. She's been at the forefront of work with relationships for several decades now. She's the author of the Queen's Code book and really offers partnership-based solutions to improve our communication and our intimacy. And she's also just a hell of a lot of fun. So welcome, Alison.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, let's jump right in. So, with a little bit about your backstory, I always find it's helpful to know a little bit more about who somebody is before we hear their teaching. So, like, what put you on this path to being a relationship and intimacy kind of expert, and particularly helping women and men understand each other better?
Oh boy. Well, it was as a convergence of my personal life and my public life. Publicly, I was an activist for the hungry and the homeless, and ended up seeing that so much of what happens that causes homelessness, especially in the US, is there are things that happen during childhood. And one of them is what happens to a child when their parents don't get along, when their parents are up all night fighting, when their parents don't communicate, when their parents are taking each other out, and the child with them. And that converged with, I had started studying men for my own benefit when I found out that I was a frog farmer. And the Queen's Code tells that story in the first chapter. So I don't know how much we'll include in this point, but really a person who is bringing out the worst in men. So instead of turning a frog into a prince, turning a prince into a frog. And honestly, that was some of the best news I ever got, because the alternative was that men just are jerks. The alternative is men just don't care. The alternative is men are completely unavailable, keep their distance, take what they need, and run for the hills. That was my experience of life. I was 30 years old at the time. And so I had all kinds of strategies for how do I deal with these people that I wanted so much, that I needed so much to pay attention to me and wanted them to love me. And I wanted the happily ever after dream. And I'd been married and divorced and just like concluded there's either something really huge wrong with them and there's something really huge wrong with me. Like, this is just never going to work. And then when actually my friend was called a frog farmer and sloughed it off, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was so excited. Like, if I am doing something to bring the worst out in men, I can fix that. Right? I've tried to change men. It doesn't work, but I can change me. And, but I didn't know how to change me because I was so normal. I was so like everybody else. I did what my mom did, what girlfriends did, what they showed on TV, what I read in books. I was just a normal woman. And I needed to look someplace else to find out how to change. And I honestly don't know, Stephen, why I thought what I thought when I thought it. It was like a miracle. I decided to look to men. I decided to find out from men, what is it that they're responding to? What is it that has them get so frustrated and angry and need to disappear, want to disappear? And what, on the other hand, I had a little bit of hope, right? If I could learn what brings out the worst in men and stop that seemed like what I really needed to do. But if I could learn a little of what brings out the best in men and start doing that, well, wouldn't that be amazing? And so I I just decided to study men. And the question popped into my head, what if men are responding to women? And thank goodness it was that question, because in a what if, there's nothing to prove. And so I was just open to finding out all these ways that men are responding to women. And therefore, that's something we should take on. We could affect that or own that. And how men are not responding to women. That there are things that men do that we as women think that has everything to do with how you feel about me, or that's like a way that you're damaged, that you do that because of your divorce, because of your mother, because of your childhood, because of your I don't know, how much you drink or how much you play golf, or we're always looking for what's wrong with me that you don't treat me the way I need to be treated, or what's wrong with you that as a man that you don't treat me the way I need to be treated. And the biggest surprise, Stephen, was as I started listening and really the first breakthrough was being willing to believe men. Um, I found out that most things are the opposite, that what women take personally have nothing to do with us. Like when a man's not ready for something, right? If he's not ready for a relationship, ready for marriage, ready for fatherhood, ready to buy a house, women take that personally. No, nothing to do with her. And then things that we don't take personally. We think it's his problem that has everything to do with us. And like he's emotionally distant or he just won't communicate. Well, talk about a whole world I got to discover of what causes a man to not communicate and what causes him to communicate, and how much the listener has like 90% to do with that. That was really exciting. Can I
Well,
tell you something though, Stephen, that some people don't know?
Sure.
So I get acknowledged a lot for my dedication, right? Because I started studying men in 1991. But when I started studying men in 1991, I thought it would take 2 or 3 months to learn everything there was worth knowing about men. Because I was normal. I believed that men were shallow. I believed that men were insensitive. I honestly thought, well, I really questioned whether men had souls. They seem like a lesser form of human than women. And I really did. I really, really did. And the more I studied men, the more it revealed my beliefs about who men are. And then the more surprised and delighted I became. And oh my gosh, who are these people? And I've got to get the word out. People need to know this. And I've been doing it ever since. And I am still fascinated by who men are. Like, oh my gosh. All these years later, it's almost 30 years, and you're still surprising me. You're still delighting me. I'm still learning more and more about who you are and what has you commit and everything that comes into play when you commit, and how passionately you love and feel, and how sensitive men are. Oh my gosh, you're the opposite of what we think. You're so sensitive. You're just sensitive to completely different things than women are sensitive to. All right, I'm going to call time on myself. That's how I got here.
Well, I love your vulnerability, and it's there's a playful way that you open up this terrain, which can be very painful for people. And so, even just calling it frog farming is a funny way to start. So, what is it? What are some of the ways that women are unconsciously frog farming? What are the communication patterns, the sort of the things that are triggering a downward spiral that people just not aware of?
Well, there's a very long list, which we cover in Living the Queen's Code. But communication is a perfect place to start. So, for example, really what we have are conflicting instincts. And I love the term opposite sex because opposite doesn't just mean completely different. Opposite means opposing, opposing sexes. And so we have opposing instincts. And virtually everything, I might say everything. I haven't found any instinct that a woman has that doesn't conflict with a man. But let's just say virtually everything I've discovered that a woman is compelled to do. And what I mean by that is whenever as a woman you're experiencing tension, and that tension is moving you, compelling you to act in a particular way, the likelihood is that what you're compelled to do isn't going to work. And because it's in conflict with what a man is compelled to do. So, for example, as a woman, most women, most of the time, experience feeling safe, feeling calm, feeling like we can be ourselves when we experience being connected. So connection is vital. Having a connection, keeping a connection, establishing a connection, reconnecting. It's as if everything that's beautiful in a woman begins with that. And one of the ways that we connect is by someone being interested in us. So if you're interested in me, that's an access to connecting with you. And one of the ways I know that you're interested in me is you ask me questions. You ask me questions. Yay, questions. You're asking me questions. You're asking me about my day. You're asking me about my passions. You're asking me about all the people I love. You're asking me about my dog. How's Buckminster? Right? It's asking me all these questions and paying attention, right? So that's the other part, attention and interest. Good attention, not that other kind of attention. Good attention, the kind of attention I love. So because this means so much to a woman and it has such a profound effect on us, it's what we do. So we'll pay attention to you. We'll pay attention to a man. Our man will come home. He'll walk through the door. Hi, honey. How was your day? And we want you to tell us all about it. I wish even they could see your face right now because almost no women know about transition time. They don't know that the way that a testosterone causes a man's mind to work, most men most of the time, some women some of the time, is for you to completely commit yourself to one thing at a time, which means that you need a way to bridge from one focus to another focus. And you have rituals to help you get there. And the rituals bear a shocking resemblance to what like a caveman would do. He gets home from the cave. He unloads his spear, his bow and arrow, his club, right? He's like, all of his implements he sets down, usually right inside the door. Keys, phones, briefcases, right? And then he's got to get his bloody clothes off, right? Whether he was in battle or he was taking down an elk, right? He's going to be icky and yucky, and he's either in his uniform or he's, just all grossed out. And so the first thing he wants to do is take his clothes off, and he'll go put on something really comfortable and it's meant for being at home. And like a man I know, he has 12 in and out t-shirts. He puts one on every time. This is not my husband, by the way. And then he needs to change his brain. He needs to let his brain let go of what he was focused on before and then commit to what he's going to focus on next. And he already knows what it is. So he's got to have this transition from and to. And the from and to means everything. And if he had a bad from, then it changes the transition. And if the to gets changed up on him, like he's not just going to come home and get to unwind and restore himself, he's got to change his clothes and go to a function for his kids. Oh boy, that changes the whole deal. And nowhere in there is being, well, men call it interrogated. So for a woman, what we think of as interest and we care, men call it interrogation. And I asked men, what's your favorite question? Because this is a very important thing to know about women. What are our favorite questions? Because how are you? That's a whole other nightmare we can talk about. But if you know a woman's favorite questions, then connections can happen very quickly, and they can also feed the person who's asking because they'll access her passion instead of her complaints. And I asked men, what are your favorite questions? And they just looked at me like, blank face. So after a while, I went, okay, what is it? Why are you looking at me like that? And a whole room of men, what? No questions. My favorite questions are no questions. Bam, opposing instincts.
That's really fascinating. I find it, even as a man, I've found it really illuminating seeing how, as the fruits of your study and understanding myself in a different way. So let's talk a little bit more about what are the kind of, so these are opposing systems, if you will. So what do you really see as like all the core drivers of the male operating system?
Oh boy. Okay. The short version of this, because living the Queen's Code is the long, detailed how to fit it into every part of your life. Now that you know this, what do you do differently? What's the smallest change you can make for the biggest effect? So we'll do all that in the course. Major things we're dealing with in the area of communication, that the default for a man is to conceal everything. Conceal everything that matters, because that's what could be used against him. There's only one time when he goes into major reveal, and that's when he's trying to impress somebody. The rest of the time, it's all under wraps. And men will only reveal themselves to people who they think can't hurt them or who have proven that they won't hurt them. Big piece there we have to work on in discovering and living the Queen's Code. Another piece is connected with this business of commitment. The idea that men are non-committal is complete fiction. It is one of the biggest and most damaging myths. Men are by nature committal. And because they're committal, they're very careful in what they commit to. And there's this huge thing that we'll be teaching in the two different parts of the course. So the 8 chapters of the book, and then the 30 days with Understanding Men Online. And that is called the worth it calculation. So if a man is going to commit all of who he is to something, it has to score big points in the worth it calculation. And one of the biggest mistakes women make is we don't know that it's constantly happening, and we don't know what information, what reactions, what ways of being influence the worth it calculation when a man is considering providing something for us. Huge. Another thing that's going to come up is male sexuality. The opposing instincts between men and women in regards to sexuality literally begin with fertility. And that a man is fertile 24/7 for virtually all the years of his life, and a woman is fertile about 30 hours a month for 35 years of her life, maybe 40 at the most. Changes everything. So that's a really important part, is understanding male sexuality and how to take the opposing instincts and opposing needs that men and women have. And what are the adjustments that literally, instead of bashing heads, what are the adjustments that can have this happen instead? That's the magic, is how do you shift? How do you shift your perspective, your attitude, your approach, your timing? Timing is critical. That's a whole other area. Timing. Estrogen has a completely different effect on the brain than testosterone. And that's what gets into the world of interruption. So how much a man is protecting his state of mind, because it has everything to do with his ability to produce results and even to have a sense of peace and freedom. And estrogen creates a state of mind in women that creates phenomenal connections, allows us to pay attention to a zillion things at one time. Doesn't even allow us, though. It makes us. And so we have an opposite mental state. One way you could think of it, Stephen, is that we live in a state of interruption. Whenever I try to teach men about this, they'll go, oh, so women are multi-focused? Man is single-focused and women are multi-focused? No. Try no focus. What? What? There was a study where men actually took quantities of estrogen and got to experience the diffuse awareness of the estrogen brain. And, they didn't complete the study because they begged to stop. Yeah. Yeah. When men really get what it's like to be a woman, the compassion and the admiration just go through the roof. And men already have tremendous admiration for women. So that's a whole other part of our work, right? We started with understanding men, and then it took me about a dozen years to understand men well enough to be able to explain women to a man. And everybody assumed that women already understood women, and we found out, no, women have no more understanding of themselves than we do. So that's why it's understanding men and understanding women.
Well, it's fascinating. You're like an anthropologist exploring these two strange cultures and finding their underpinning logic. One of the things you talked about that people rated really highly in coming to today is about the shifts in word choices to what you call the language of heroes, and how that can call forth the best in men. And I think that's a really important area. Realizing these communication cues are really often central to whether we can, step into your queen and call out the king, or frog farm. So why don't you share a little bit about that?
The difference in the words that men and women use is, it's easily one of the most important things that I discovered. And it would seem the simplest, like, oh, just change this word. Well, there are really good reasons why women don't naturally use the words that resonate the most with men. And that's why it's not just knowing the word, but transforming our own relationship to that word. And that's a big part of the journey, is to transform our relationship to these different words. So in the Queen's Code, we're going to be looking at and working on the 5 keywords in what we call the language of heroes. And it's really what connects with the soul of a man, the spirit of a man, what a man would consider his purpose, what already makes things worth it to him. And I can share with you now what I would call the 6th word in the language of heroes. So we don't include it in the big 5, And there's even a discussion about this in the Queen's Code book, but it'll give you a sense of the conflict that we have. So, one of the things that I discovered about men is that thing that shows up when a woman is talking that makes her so mad, where she'll be in the middle of just outflowing all the stuff that she's upset about, and a man will interrupt her with a clarifying question. And he's doing that because he's trying to identify the real problem so that he can solve it. And women think that he does that because he needs to solve problems. She doesn't know he doesn't need to solve every problem in the world. He's compelled to solve a problem for her. He's compelled to protect her from that problem. And that's why he's interrupting to try to zero in on the problem so he can solve it. And it would be a miracle in his world if she just came out and said, this is the problem. Okay, well, that sounds simple enough, right? And then I started talking to men about, what do you think about solving problems? And the biggest shocker for me, the first one, Stephen, that would just like, blah, 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 was a man in one of our panels, which are part of all our courses, that he described his job and how as soon as he hits his desk in the morning, people are calling him with problems all day long. And I'm sitting there listening, thinking, what a nightmare. Right? And he gets to the end of describing his day and he says, I love my job. It's like, so many times since 1991, I've had the reaction, who are these people? And that was one of the moments. And another man said, it was so cool. He said, a problem to a man is like a squirrel to a dog. And I just can picture my dog, right? And the joy of something to chase, the joy of something to hunt, to try to catch, the ecstasy in that, and then to solve it. I'm a champion, right? And we as women, we don't understand this. In a woman's world, problems are to be avoided. Problems are something you want to get you want to get to the bottom of it to find out what allowed that problem to live in the first place. And we have this voice in our head that is convinced that we will survive and we will be loved and we'll be cared for and we'll be happy if we're perfect. And if we can't be perfect, then the next best thing is to pretend to be perfect. The next best thing is to conceal imperfections. Stephen, you probably don't know this, but how people sell makeup is by saying it will make a woman's skin look flawless. Our skin's supposed to be flawless, right? That's a kind of perfection, flawless. And so as a woman, I'm not allowed to have problems. No. That is so imperfect. To have a problem, that is imperfection. So women aren't allowed to have problems. And so women find other words to use. And there's a whole period of time where I just interviewed men, asking them what the other words mean to them. And one of women's favorite words to use is issue. Stephen, we have an issue. Again, opposite instinct. So for women, issue's safer. Issue is it's not all on me. Us, our relationship, this third entity that exists between the two of us, we have an issue in our relationship. So the relationship has an issue. I don't have any problems. The relationship has an issue. Um, we avoid that word like crazy, and we don't know that it has the opposite effect of problems, because problems by definition have solutions, and issues by definition don't. Issues by definition can last years. You get what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and it's very, very, very interesting. So is that so clear? Connecting that with the question around the language of heroes. So problem is actually is one of those things that you want to use with men to kind of like to elicit their solution, the solution force in them. So that ta-da, I'm going to be a hero and solve this problem. And what are some of the other ones?
You actually could just come right out and say, honey, I have a problem. Would you help me? Sure. What's the problem? Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think the problem is, and I'm going to tell you what I need to be included in the solution. Is that okay? Yeah. Is this a good time? Sure, let's do it. Or wait, let me close this out. Problems are something to get at, right? But timing still matters. And oh my gosh, I mean, incredibly amazing problem solvers and compulsive problem solvers. And here's the problem with that, Stephen, is that because we don't know and understand and accept and even appreciate that men are built to solve problems, they're compelled to solve problems. Because we don't know that, we're not paying sufficient attention to the kinds of problems we give men. Because you're going to solve whatever problem we give. And most men, and this is the short answer to the question of men keeping their distance and men not communicating, is that mostly the problems that women give men are along the lines of, how do I escape this conversation with my testicles? That's a problem we give men all the time.
So say more about that, because I know that this whole area was really, really illuminating when I read your book on the Queen's Code. Is just like, wow, the whole thing about the ways in which women have, especially sort of post-feminism, like kind of like created a certain way of unconsciously emasculating men and not understanding how that's happening. And I think that's a really important thing to bring forward.
Yeah, and the thing I would say, Stephen, is that there are ways that we unconsciously emasculate men. And by emasculate, we specifically define that as diminishing a person's ability to produce results. So men are all about producing results, and we diminish their ability to produce results in a variety of ways. Now, women have also become all about producing results. And one of the things that's exciting about our work in the last few years, that this course is an update to everything we've done before, is we've seen that women are as likely to emasculate themselves as they are men. They're as likely to emasculate other women as they are to emasculate men. So it's a equal opportunity. We diminish everybody's ability to produce results. And many of them are unconscious. Like, because women don't understand single focus, we don't understand how an interruption, especially a disrespectful interruption, diminishes a man's ability to produce results. But to be truthful, and this is one of the things that we dive into in Living the Queen's Code, are you willing to be truthful? Are you willing to see this? How often we purposefully diminish a man's ability to produce results. We diminish a man's sense of himself. We even punish, because of the way that women inherently perceive men. what we see, and we're sure it's true, is that you know the right thing to do and you're doing the wrong thing on purpose. And anybody who does the wrong thing on purpose, well, you grow up, you go to jail when you do the wrong thing on purpose. In relationship, you do the wrong thing on purpose. The just simple human reaction is you deserve to be punished. And it, you know this from reading the book, Stephen. We even in many places and parts of our lives, in many sectors, it's not only that you deserve to be punished, and so it's no problem if I do it. It's actually, if someone misbehaves and belongs to a gender that everybody thinks misbehaves, you not only deserve to be punished, it is my duty to punish you. If I don't punish you, you're just going to keep doing that. And I will have failed the sisterhood. It's like we have a pact, Stephen. We didn't even talk about it, but so the consequences, everything that matters to me, like the end of hunger, the end of homelessness, peace on earth, will never happen as long as women are doing this to men, because it leaves you solving the problem. How do I get out of this conversation, this relationship, this interaction with myself intact? So you're solving really small problems that we keep putting in front of you. I mean, they're important to you, but look at all the energy that isn't available for, honey, could you figure out how to end hunger? That's what I need the most. Guys, you're compulsive problem solvers. Put your minds to this. I mean, that's what the Shift Network's all about, right? You're solving bigger problems. But to solve bigger problems, we have to have a bigger consciousness. Okay. I know I went to the big picture, but there are things we do unconsciously, like interrupt or like ignore you. Most of the time that women ignore men, it's because we're afraid of how you'll respond to our attention. We don't know it actually makes everything worse. So yes, there are plenty of unconscious ways. But criticism, for example, why didn't you? Why don't you? What were you thinking? Were you even thinking? That's not unconscious. That's deliberate. And we have a good reason for doing it. I don't mean good like good versus bad. I mean, I can explain it. It's not a misbehavior on women's part. It's a misperception. And we have to we have to correct the misperception. And once you do that, then the behavior that's so debilitating and destructive to our relationships with every man. I mean, when I found out how much I was emasculating my son, he was not yet 3 years old, and I was crushing the man in him. We do it to all men. We are equal opportunity. But until we see why we're compelled to do that there's an actual thing happening in our perception of men, it's very hard to stop doing something that seems like the right thing to do. So that's where we start. We start with revealing what is our existing perception, what is the source of our existing perception. And once you can pierce that, because it's hidden, once you can pierce that, and in fact, if you're willing to keep looking, like actually dwell in, whoa, I see this, I see men this way everywhere. Oh my gosh, look at the impact. If you're willing to dwell in that, which would be chapter 2 in Living the Queen's Code, it can change everything. It makes getting along with men natural, becomes more natural to get along instead of to not get along. And that's what's so important.
Mm. Fascinating. Well, each of these areas, I know you have so much you can offer, and you're going to go deeper in your upcoming program. We'll share a little bit about towards the end here with the Living the Queen's Code. But I want to also talk more explicitly about the Queen's Code and the part of honoring yourself as a queen and kind of call. So there's the relationship with men, and then what is it that can call forth that honoring and calling forth the queen energy in you, in addition to how you relate to men.
Yes, yeah, I'm happy to, because it's critical. Um, okay, so we have another case of opposing instincts. Let me see if I can do a short version of this. Because of millennia of the survival of humanity being based on strength and problem solving, and on the one hand, and making babies on the other, and the difference in our physical stature and strengths, and what making and raising babies requires of a woman, it's completely built into women to look to men for protection and to be provided for. So protect me and provide for me, and meanwhile be attracted to me so that you'll protect me and provide for me. And what that does at the instinctive level, which has everything to do with the perfection I was talking about earlier, is women are hyper perceptive to what pleases a man. Now, hyper perceptive and also clueless, because we're looking all the time for, does this please him? Does this please him? Is he pleased? Is he pleased? Is he pleased? Oh, he's displeased. He's displeased. He's displeased. But because we misperceive men in the first place, we misinterpret pleased and displeased. And honestly, it doesn't occur to us to ask. That's a whole topic. Human instinct is don't ask and don't tell, right? So we don't ask, does this please you, right? We're just trying to figure out how to please you. And the problem is that what most attracts men to women to fall in love with them, to want to protect them, to want to provide for them is when a woman is confident, in fact, self-confident. So when a woman has faith in herself, when a woman is, the men use the word authentic or real, when she's real, what you see is what you get. So a woman being real is the second most attractive quality. And our instincts cause us to be unreal. And so in Living the Queen's Code, it's so important to match a new understanding of what really matters to men with honoring yourself, with knowing yourself. How can you have faith in yourself if you don't know yourself, right? How can you be real about who you are and what you need if you haven't accepted what you need and if you haven't committed to what you need? So one of the things that keeps happening with women in every context is we try to get other people to commit to giving us things that we haven't committed ourselves first. We don't commit to our own needs before we ask somebody else. We do what I call go fishing. What we try to get something from you instead of commit first to honoring ourselves. And then, so how could I not interrupt a man, or how could I only interrupt a man respectfully, for example, in a way that honors me? So what we've seen is without the piece of, I've got to honor myself, or I'm never going to be the self-confident, authentic, passionate, receptive queen that brings out the very best in men. I've got to honor myself first. And that is counterinstinctive for a woman. And instead, what happens, unfortunately, with our education, and it's heartbreaking to me, is some women will just take what they can learn about men and use it to be more pleasing. And they'll leave themselves out of the equation. So they'll not interrupt a man in order to be more pleasing, but they actually really need to interrupt him. There's something that matters, right? But I've seen women take my work and turn it into whole new ways of contorting and adapting themselves that they lose themselves in the process. And that is heartbreaking, and not just for the woman, but for men. You know this, Stephen. You have such love and admiration and appreciation and awe for who women are and can be, these magical, life bringing, reality altering beings. And when we lose ourselves, we're not there for you. Everything, every way that we could nurture and empower you is lost by us dishonoring ourselves to be more pleasing to you. And you don't want it. You don't want us to do that. And this is a main part of our work, right? Is teaching men and women both that when you stand up for yourself, that's hot. That is hot. It's not comfortable, but it's hot.
Well, Alison, I just like every sentence out of your mouth is a little mini revelation, and you present it, and so it's so fun too. It's like, oh, these moments of recognition and awakening, and just shifting all these patterns. So we're super excited that this today is just a taste of what's to come if people join you for the next step of the journey. So let's talk about that. So you have the program, you mentioned it a few times. It's called Living the Queen's Code, and this is a brand new version of this. You can find it at queenscodecourse.com. There's no apostrophe, just queenscodecourse.com. And the course title is Living the Queen's Code, Honor Yourself and Transform Your Relationships with Men. So this is really the state-of-the-art. It's an 8-week program, builds from some of the concepts of the book, but goes much further into how do you apply this in your life? How do you make those profound shifts in word choices and understanding, and the ways in which the dynamics that go back and forth that allow you to really have fulfilling and powerful and beautiful relationships between men and women, and for you to really stand in your queenship. So, Alison, I'd love for you to share in your own words what you're excited to share with folks in this 8-week program, which also includes, I should say, we've brought together one of your most important foundational programs into this, called Understanding Men as well. So this combines some of the best work that you've done with this beautiful Queen's Code program.
I've been so excited about this, and I keep getting more excited. So the first thing just to understand about why we put them together is because I started our live workshops to teach women about men in order to learn how to write the book that would transform the way women related to men. And it took me 15 years to learn how to do that. And so when we published the Queen's Code, we thought the Queen's Code would replace the Understanding Men workshop. And our Understanding Men graduates read the Queen's Code and said, oh my gosh, it kicked my butt. And then women read the Queen's Code and came to the workshop and was like, oh my gosh, this makes everything so much more clear. And so we really found out that there's a partnership between the Queen's Code book and the Understanding Men online course. And that's why I'm so thrilled, Stephen, that you said yes, that I get to put these together and people don't have to decide between them. I get to do it all. And what we've already seen is that as I am talking about the things to make sure you get out of every chapter and ways that you can implement this in your life, that I already get to hook it into, how we're going to get to go to the next level of that in the part of living the Queen's Code that is us being together with the Understanding Men online course. So the marriage is already just divine to me. I'm ecstatic about it. And also the way we have set this up. And thank you again for this. I'm super excited. So I'm passionate about people learning and implementing. And if it's not in your life, who cares? It only matters when it's in your life. And so I've been studying all these years, how do people actually go from having it in their head, having it in their heart, having it transform their spirit, and then having the courage to do what it takes to put it in their life. And in breaking down that process, we've gotten to include that in Living the Queen's Code. So it starts with you reading the chapter, right? So read chapter one before we have the chapter one session. Then I get to illuminate the chapter and even give you backstory on it that nobody knows. It's really fun. And then point to like, these are the main things. And I will be right here in my studio, have a flip chart. It'll make it very clear that these are the most important things to get out of this and questions to be asking yourself. And then we go from that session right into something really important. It's called team teaching. And it's because I discovered that verbalizing is one of the most important learning languages that almost no one pays attention to. So you go from learning it from me to trio or paired work where you're, as a team, you're teaching what you just learned. And you can't get it wrong. There's no wrong way to do it. And you discover so much by it coming out of your own life. And then you have a turn with your teammates where you get to just outflow how this applies to you. And that's such an important part of us digesting and learning and having insights into what we're doing. And then you go from there to getting to ask me questions. We get to be together here and I get to answer your questions. And I love answering questions. It's my favorite thing. And that's how we get to personalize it. And then right on the course page, there's going to be even more prompts. So other things you might want to think about, other things you might not have noticed, other things you might want to pursue on your own, or this is how you might apply this even more in the workplace, or with your son, or with your brother, or with an ex. I mean, we just get to point to a lot more ways that you can implement what you're learning. And we're going to do that week after week after week. And we get to work through the Queen's Code, which is fiction, and 8 different characters who have 8 different points of view, and you get to be in their head. You get to see how men see women because you're in a man's head, 4 different men. And you get to understand what women struggle with. And this is why I really encourage, by the way, Stephen, both people who've participated in the past years that we've been together, do this, because there's so much more that's going to show up with the video and with how much I've studied and evolved since then. And I really encourage men to participate. Men love the book. It has them understand who they are and why they do what they do, which allows men to honor themselves more instead of allowing women to emasculate them. And it also gives men such compassion for really, what is it, the source of the worst things that women do. I can keep going. I'm going to call time again.
No, it's fantastic. And I can say, as a man, like I found the book a revelation. And I feel like you have a remarkable ability to kind of see these deeper patterns and then bring them to the surface in a way that really crystallizes them and also makes them fun and kind of laugh. You can kind of laugh about it ultimately, things that have been a source of pain and frustration for a long time. So it's really quite a gift you have at being able to zero in at the core of the patterns that are really breaking down and that really are not that hard ultimately to shift once we have full awareness, we engage the practices and really take it on. So I'll show you a little bit more. So this is a video-based class. So you're going to have 8 105-minute class sessions with Alison, which has a pre-recorded teaching from her. So she's really kind of honing her pre-recorded teaching. And then there's the 15-minute team teaching sessions, and there's a live 30-minute Q&A session. So again, this is all video, allows you to engage with each other, allow directly with Alison. You also will get not only the video recordings, but also the audio recordings and the full transcripts. So that really allows you to go much deeper into the work and really synthesize it and apply it in your life. And so the course is going to begin on June 3rd, and it's going to run Mondays at noon Pacific time. And as Alison mentioned, the Understanding Men program is included as well. This is a powerful 30-day journey subscription that is really accompanies this work in a powerful way, and that includes 4 weekly live interactive calls with Alison as well. So that course just by itself is normally $198 and takes 30 days to complete. But it's by doing it together, you're actually getting more value, and you're getting this deepening and complementarity from the two. I should also mention that there are some great bonuses. You can see them laid out in more detail at the page there at queenscodecourse.com. There's an ebook from Alison called Keys to the Kingdom. There's a 4.5-hour audio training called Journey to the Center of You. And you do get the ebook of the Queen's Code. So Alison, anything you want to share about some of those other bonuses, like the Journey to the Center of You?
Oh, yes, thank you. So Journey to the Center of You has everything to do with being able to honor yourself. And it's where I teach something that I now call the Uber values. And it's really the core driver of everything that you do. And that would be simple if we all had the same, but we've identified 5 different core drivers that are people's reason, what they spend their time, their money, their energy on, their reason and purpose for having a relationship, why they marry the person they marry, why other people drive them crazy, all the decisions. Where does that come from? And once you understand that about yourself, then you can accept that and you can protect it and you can start to support yourself way better. So thrilled to have that be part of what we're providing. Keys of the Kingdom. I'm just going to say this real specifically. Please allow Living the Queen's Code to unfold the way it's designed, where you read a chapter in the week before we're going to work on it. And Keys to the Kingdom is the prequel. So if you can't wait to get started, read Keys of the Kingdom, which will be provided immediately. It has 4 of the 8 characters. It'll give you so much of the backstory of the Queen's Code and help you to understand the characters even more, which they're rich and lovable and real and amazing. And I talk about that in the first session. But I just ask that please honor the way it's laid out, because I am fundamentally an engineer and we have designed something off the charts for you. And so if you just can't wait and you got to learn more about this material, Journey to this interview and Keys to the Kingdom, they'll get you started in a beautiful way.
Well, it's amazing how much value is packed into this program. It's really sort of an amazing offer. So we've got both Understanding Men and Living the Queen's Code, and we've got these extra bonuses. We've kept it really accessible. It's just 3 payments of $129 or 1 payment of $347, which is just a touch more than our usual 7-week program. So it's a lot more value, and there's an extra bonus when you sign up today by midnight. We like to do this as a way to encourage you to go to the page at queenscodecourse.com. And now, while you have the most information and you really have the best moment to make a decision, that you have this extra incentive to do so today. So that's an extra bonus called The Cure for Complaining. It's actually almost 3-hour audio course from Alison. And complaining is definitely one of those things that's like, it's like grinding away at people over time and is often a real source of real frustration. So Alison, you want to share anything about the cure for complaining and what people will understand better about how to cure that?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this fast action bonus, because complaining is one of the most destructive things that both men and women do. It's one of the things that frustrates both men and women. Feels like we're being taken apart. And that's actually what I did with complaining, right? I mentioned I think like an engineer. So the cure for complaining starts with the anatomy of a complaint. What causes complaints in the first place? And why do they persist so long? And why do they have so much energy in them? And why do they suck the life out of us? And once you understand the 3 different components that create complaints and cause the persistence of complaints and the energy behind complaints, now you can cure it. Now you can actually just, with the least amount of energy, You can actually cure them. You can cause complaints to dissipate, to disappear, to actually turn from huge moments of disconnection. I mean, this is why they're so upsetting for women, right? We love and need connection so badly. Complaining destroys connection. And if you have the cure for complaining, you can actually take something that would cause a disconnection and turn it into something that causes a deeper connection.
Beautiful. Well, what a great offer for folks to sign up today. So I encourage you all to go to queenscodecourse.com and read through the page, and particularly the testimonials. I think there's remarkable impact in people's lives. People saying, once they started practicing in real time with women, they were astonished at the shift of what they were witnessing. This work saved my relationship. Our marriage was on a collision course for divorce. Helped us both see things about each other in refreshing, positive ways. I mean, it's remarkable the impact that this work has on people's well-being in relationships, and being an ability to really stand in your own authenticity and strength and vulnerability, and to relate in a way that generates deep love and a lot more fun. So, Alison, what a great gift this whole program is. And I love that we've bundled Living the Queen's Code and Understanding Men together for more value for all those who choose to take this next step. So, just have a minute or so left. Anything that I just encourage you to speak straight to folks. Anything else that remains on your heart you want to share about taking this next step of a journey into the Queen's Code with you?
Yeah. I love that you have the testimonials from the other two times we've done this. And the other two times you do this is a fraction of what we're going to do this time. This course is already officially unpredictable in its impact. And I'm telling everybody to do it. I'm telling my staff to do it. I'm telling all our graduates to do it. Everyone should do this, man or woman. Anybody who cares about being empowered and living an empowered life and being able to empower other people with the least amount of effort, the least amount of energy, and just enough courage to make extraordinary choices beyond our own human instincts, which are incredibly destructive to love and joy and respect and honor and people's dreams. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having this time together, even in the Understanding Men online portion. Those are going to be private, just us, the people participating in this course. We're not sharing that space with anybody else. And all the added value, Stephen, that the Shift Network has put together, it really moves me to tears. Transcripts, being able to listen over and over again, audio that you can take it with you on your run, the video, the audio, the transcripts, all those ways that you have expanded the impact that I get to have. It's really a privilege for me. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, when I first read the Queen's Code, I knew this was revelatory information that everyone needed to have. It's such a pleasure and honor to be bringing it forward. And I just encourage all of you who are watching, if you've been touched by anything here today, there is much more to come in the Queen's Code and Understanding Men. And it is the kind of information that's truly life-changing for you. So Alison's a lot of fun to learn from, and you're really going to be blessed if you take this journey with her. So encourage you to do so at queenscodecourse.com. And when you sign up today, you get the extra cure for complaining to really shift that in your life as well. So Alison, thank you for this beautiful time together. Thank you all for joining us, and onwards into a deeper kind of love. So thanks all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.